Before we start today's video, over on the Cthulhu-Kin and Friends show tonight, 9:30 PM GMT, I shall be hosting a political recap stream with my co-host Trups. Everyone should go subscribe to Trups as well, just as FYI. Link to his channel below. Now the subject of today's video is not going to be Brexit because seriously, I cannot be bothered. Instead we're going to talk about a subject that, yeah, it warrants this outfit, it warrants this attire. I know it triggers the living heck out of my avatar artist to use older avatar material, but seriously, Judge Moist for the win. Where a self-confessed paedophile, who also happened to be a nursery manager, streamed child abuse in online chat rooms. Now I know what you're all thinking. I hope this guy is in prison. I hope he's getting fisted from wrist to elbow. Up to elbow? Up to shoulder, you're right. Small problem. This person's not in prison, nor are they male. If they were male, that veiny Pringle can, yeah, they'd be introduced to it in every orifice, starting with the ears. I hear it is popular for people to stretch them, so why not stretch the inside of the ear? This is Allison Watley, or Waitley. I don't know which way it is, I've seen it spelled and pronounced different ways. But this is Allison, let's call her Allison. It's a lot easier. She was caught by an undercover cop saying that babies are, quote, so effing sexy. Small thing here that had me wonder, because without additional context, this sounded like a Frankie Boyle joke from Mock the Week. I'm going to keep this picture of this woman on the screen, because it was only recently a judge lifted a ban on her identity being hidden. I hold a very strict view. You are innocent, and therefore anonymous, in these particular crimes especially, until you're proven guilty. And the moment you are proven guilty, your name, your face, on blast. It's a shame it took a week really, but I can understand why, although at the same time I'm somewhat surprised. What with the sentence she received for what she did, which we will go into in depth in a moment, I'm surprised she wasn't given anonymity in perpetuity, on the grounds that, yeah, if she's not in prison, people are going to find her. I also want to cover something else related to this. I was asked by somebody on my Discord server called Laura Bones, channel link below, where she recommended I ask people on Twitter. I had said I was considering it, and she said do it. So I asked them, after giving them context of this case, what would happen, or what you think should happen to her, and we will go to those later on. So a nursery manager who boasted about her sexual interest in children, in internet chat rooms no less, where child sexual abuse was shown, has been named as Allison Watley. Doesn't matter. Now, she worked at Bushy Tails Day Nursery and Preschool in Teddington. She was arrested in 2017, suspended from work, and later dismissed following a National Crime Agency investigation. I wonder how the NCA have taken the sentence she received. I, like many people, think, incorrect sentencing. That's why this video is in the playlist called Halls of Justice, because any video in there is incorrect sentencing. I would love to know enough to know why, and we'll get to the sentence soon enough and you'll understand my annoyance. Why she received a sentence that essentially says, give me your wrist, I just want to slap it a little. The sentence that she received was for assisting or encouraging the distribution of indecent images. Can't really charge someone for being a paedophile, but one can hope she gets help for it. Now, after she was arrested, Allison admitted to using an account on an online chat room in which the most serious category of child sexual abuse was being streamed. One can hope now that this chat room has been seen, those involved are all brought to justice at a rather expedient pace, and then they summarily are put on blast. I also hope that she had information that was valuable to the police. If she did, that would go some way to explain why her sentence was utterly pathetic. During the investigation, the police found a recording on her phone in which she admitted to being a paedophile and expressed an interest in abusing very small children. Does this not sound familiar to a number of people who have followed kill streams in the past, or comités, where Metica was on for an hour with a guy called Ross, someone who was working around children but had admitted to wanting to touch children or abuse children, who simultaneously happened to work around children, and then fobbed his issues off as, I've got bloodlust and rage, and then there was the echo. If anyone doesn't remember it, that's fine. It will be much like channels earlier mentioned, linked below, along with this article and that Frankie Boyle joke. Allison had claimed she'd been visiting the conference room for 6 months to entrap paedophiles. But she had not passed offenders' details to police. Well, that explains everything, and pretty much confirms to me that no, she was not trying to do that at all. She was inevitably getting her rocks off to what can only be described as the single most vile thing that not only one should not be exposed to, but also children should not have to go through. She initially pled not guilty, by the way, but admitting to encouraging the commission of an either-way offence on the eve of her trial. Well, try and conceptualise the surprise on my face that at the 11th hour she finally buckled. She'd be a crap negotiator. So now we get to the sentence, and this bugs me and a lot of people. She was sentenced to a 30-month, so 2.5 year, community order and a 50-day rehabilitation order. I did look up rehab orders. Most of them cropped up as community rehab orders. I don't know if they're the same thing or not. We'll certainly get to the community order in a moment. She's also on the sex offenders register and given a 5-year sexual harm prevention order, which is very lenient. I don't believe in 50 days you can undo what goes through her head, but I'd still like to see you try. A community order, for those who don't know, it basically can be imposed for offences that are serious, but apparently not so serious as to warrant custody, which means your punishment will be carried out in the community, so community service, instead of in a prison. This all falls in line with a number of complaints many have made, and it certainly cropped up yesterday in politics, in PMQs especially, where a number of questions were referencing knife crime, and they referenced the fact that the sentences are not only inconsistent, but many repeat offenders are still not getting custodial terms. The Prime Minister fobbed it off with an answer by pointing out that they have more powers to be stricter, the courts, and the judges treat it on individual cases, which I totally agree with, but apparently the judges are showing a remarkable leniency towards serious crimes. I know in this context that Allison was charged with encouraging the distribution of indecent images. I would point out, though, those that have been caught with indecent images on their computers have gotten significantly longer sentences. I could go back to someone as simple as Gary Glitter. I don't know what he had on his really old computer back in those days when the internet was fucking modem, but he got a longer sentence than this. Granted, he, in hindsight, should have just been locked up for the rest of his life until his wig fell off. But the point still stands. It is inconsistent and wrong. The sex offenders register, yeah, I can agree with that, for what she did. 5-year sexual harm prevention order. Now that is a rather interesting little thing. A sexual harm prevention order is an order imposed by a magistrate or crown court on an individual who is considered to pose a risk of serious harm to either the general public or a certain group of people or individuals. Now this can be imposed under the Sexual Offences Act of 2003, where it says that any person who has been convicted, found not guilty by reason of insanity or found to be under a disability, and to have done the act charged or cautioned for an offence listed in either Schedule 3 or 5 of the Sexual Offences Act 2003. Now the restrictions serve a purpose of either protecting the public or any particular member of the public from sexual harm, or protecting children or vulnerable adults generally, or any particular children or vulnerable adults from sexual harm outside of the UK. Handy to have for 5 years. By which time this lady will be 49. Is that old enough to be considered past her prime? Do I need my sarcasm for sign for that comment? I've noticed people still take me too seriously when I'm being quite obviously sarcastic. Now to get to what people said on Twitter, I put out this tweet. Okay, so at the request of Laura Bones, sub to her, I'm asking you to tell me what should happen to someone that live streams violating children, or watches that. I should have put that in there as a bit more clarity. To add context, like I need more. They are an admitted paedophile and think little children are sexy. Oh, and they worked in a nursery. HAL 9000, sounds like someone needs a bullet to the skull. Banterbus, hung, drawn and quarter them. Dr. Jones, community service, rehab, therapy, prison time until psychologically assessed and deemed no longer a threat to society. And then a reference to a lack of money being invested on the research to cure paedophilia. One can hope one day that is in fact cured like arthritis. Ash, person should be tormented repeatedly till the end of their days. And it should be live streamed, tit for tat. Will Honorless, you know that story, The Most Dangerous Game? Yeah, do that. Trups, well that is the very definition of a split arse, isn't it? Randy Raccoon, you tossed him off a building. Count Dibula, prison, because that's a good place for sex offenders. Amanda Wolfchild, kill them. Miss Steam, Human Experimentation, MCJK, channel link to him below. 30 years big rocks into small rocks. Involuntary servitude on Mars colony would also work for me. Oh, and Nestle, violating children, prison, and being a paedophile, a therapist. I hope this answers all the questions anyone may have on this subject. Probably should have been a bit more specific with my tweet, but I honestly think, for the most part, the majority of you, regardless, will still comment similar things. So please do tell me below, what do you think the sentence should have been for somebody who was clearly getting off to children while lying that they were doing it to entrap those that were live streaming the violating of children, all of whom I hope get caught. So I hope you'll have a lovely Thursday, and thank you all for listening.